Lily Mercer learned to read silence the way some people read faces. Years on the night floor at St. Vincent's had tuned her ears to the small betrayals, the shallow breath of a patient slipping away, the thin metallic clink of a doorknob someone fumbled at in sleep, the stuttering beep of a monitor that hinted at a failing heart. When night fell over her Brooklyn building and the city dimmed to a distant hum, silence at home became a language she thought she knew. It told her when to breathe easy and when to brace. That winter, the silence above her apartment started speaking in new, strange accents. It began with a sound she couldn't place, a slow, deliberate movement like furniture being eased across hardwood. Lily first brushed it off as the building settling. Then the quiet footsteps came, a measured, careful tread past her ceiling that always paused as though whoever made them was listening for the world's reaction. Once, very late, a laugh, low and private, threaded through the floorboards. Lily found herself awake, listening until sunlight pulled her away. Mark, her husband of 12 years, said she was too tired. Nurses carry a residual exhaustion that clings even when you sleep, he would say, smiling with that soft patience that had made her fall for him in the ER training program years ago. Mark ran a small architectural firm. He worked late, traveled occasionally, came home with takeout and a grin, and kissed her, brief, practiced, presentable in public. They had built a life of tidy compartments. Professional hours, dinner at 8, laundry on Sunday, the white noise of trust. The first concrete thing happened on a Thursday. Lily had come in from the cold with groceries, the elevator reluctant as always. Her keys scraped the lock, she stepped inside, shrugged off her coat, and there it was, folded across the back of the couch, his work shirt. A navy Oxford with a corner of the cuff torn, the same brand he wore to presentations. She froze. Mark had been at a firm retreat all week, he'd said. He'd kissed her at the door early, suitcase slung over his shoulder. He'd texted that afternoon, a blurry selfie on the retreat's rooftop. She put the bag down slowly, fingers grazing the fabric like you might touch something dangerous and valuable at once. Her heart tapped a pattern on the ribs where she could feel it. The upstairs light was on. She noticed it because she never noticed before. They weren't close to the building's floor plan, just neighbors in a thin-walled future. She set the groceries on the counter and listened. The floor murmured, someone moving. A radio hummed, distant but tuned. A woman's voice, too low to catch words, threaded with laughter. Her hands went cold. She called Mark. The call blinked straight to voicemail. She stood there, phone warm in her palm, the shirt on the couch, a question she could not ask without losing the arc of her life. The next hours were a mesh of professional muscle memory and private calculation. She threw a simple dinner together she could pretend to eat. She checked the apartment for other signs. The faint perfume scent that wasn't his, hairpins pressed between the couch cushions, an unfamiliar receipt tucked into the phone book. She found nothing, and that absence was worse. It was as if someone had walked into a room, rearranged the furniture of her certainty, and left a single footprint. At work the next day, she asked herself whether she was making a mistake by letting suspicion trail into her patients' rooms. The night shift at St. Vincent's demanded focus. Lives hung on crisp decisions. Yet every time she closed her eyes between charts, there was the blue of the shirt, the pause of footsteps above. She began noticing the upstairs sounds more. The quiet staccato of makeup brushes, a shower that lingered long into the morning, the refrain of keys that never belonged to anyone she knew. She learned the 2-times-a-week pattern of someone returning late, Tuesdays and Fridays, the creak of the floorboards signaling a familiar route. She imagined faces, she imagined excuses. On a rainy Saturday, driven by a curiosity she could taste like metal, Lily climbed the stairs to the apartment above. She'd been up there once, 6 years ago, when she and Mark first toured the building. The landlord lived in a different city now. A new set of renters had moved in last fall. The brass number above the door glinted in the stairwell gloom. The handle was warm under her palm, the hallway smelling faintly of lemon cleaner in winter. She told herself she'd only knock. She thought, if she finds evidence, she'll confront Mark at night, in the gentle light of their kitchen with every explanation ready. She knocked. No answer. Knocking again, she pressed her ear to the door. Voices floated, low and muted. She went back down without waiting for consent. The chest tightened in a way she'd felt in ER corridors, a clinical adrenaline that sharpened senses and blurred everything else. That week, Mark's unavailability grew into a pattern. He seemed distracted on the phone, shorter in his messages. He kept apologizing for overlapping meetings. When Lily asked about the shirt, he replied with an almost automatic script. I don't know how it got there, then maybe you left it, then I swear, Lily, it's nothing. His eyes blinked like someone trying to remember a practiced lie. She began collecting small proofs, the way surgeons gather instruments before a procedure. She took a photo of the shirt. She found a thread of hair behind the couch, darker than Mark's. She followed the upstairs sound map, listening for the signature creak that would align events. At 9 p.m., the sound of the shower. At 11:30 p.m., the low laugh. At 1 a.m., a heavy step and an early radio playing some old jazz. Her son, Theo, 8, sharp and stubborn, with a tendency to read late into the night, found the trail first without knowing he had. He came home one afternoon and asked, "Why is there tape on the ceiling light?" Lily blinked. She'd taped a small piece over the smoke detector after a false alarm last month. Her mind went to the upstairs apartment, perhaps a landlord's repair. Theo shrugged the way kids do when the world doesn't need adult annotation. One stormy evening, Theo asked if he could sleep over at his friend Nora's. The request felt like a small mercy. She watched him walk to the car, the rain washing the world clean. She closed the door and in the hush took the shirt into her hands one more time. This time she smelled it, not Mark's cologne, but a faint trace of gardenias and cigarette smoke. She felt the betrayal as if she'd been pinched underwater, there and not there. She found the name accidentally. It was on a slip of paper, edged into the seam of the couch cushion like a secret that had folded itself into fabric. Claire, 3B, small handwriting. Her hand trembled as she held it. Claire, the name stuck like a splinter. A week later, she was up again, drawn by a new urgency that was less curiosity and more necessity. She had checked Mark's credit card. There was nothing to suggest he'd rented the apartment. But Mark's phone had been off midweek. The company retreat existed in images, but not in receipts. She realized with the cold pragmatism of someone who had sewn sutures in trembling hands that she needed to know. She left early from the hospital and took a different route home. The stairwell smelled of melting snow. The door of 3B stood half open, a sliver of light cutting across the hallway like a blade. Inside, the apartment was unexpected, tidy in an absent way. A small shelf of books leaned against a lamp, a stack of postcards sat on the kitchen counter, a single toothbrush lay in the cup, a vase of dried flowers dusted at the edges. Her heart lodged in her throat. "Hello?" she called. Voice small. From the bedroom came the sound of a chair scraping back. A woman stepped out, maybe 30, with a softness in her shoulders as if they'd holding too much. Her hair was pulled in a loose knot, and she wore an old sweater that looked immediate and unassuming. When she saw Lily, her face shifted, then melted into cautious openness. "I'm sorry," the woman said, voice a warm thread. "I didn't expect anyone." Lily's throat worked. "I'm Lily. I live downstairs. I knocked before." Claire, Lily assumed that was her name, nodded. "I heard. I moved in last month. I keep odd hours. I work nights at a shelter." The words landed differently than Lily imagined. She felt absurdly defensive, as if guilt had been dressed as mercy. "Do you rent here?" Lily asked, a question flat and small. "Yes. It's my place now." Claire's eyes flicked to the couch. "Is that your shirt?" Lily's silence answered. Claire's mouth softened. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have taken it to air on my chair. I did laundry in the building last night and I must have left it." It was a simple explanation, and yet it didn't sit. Lily watched Claire's fingers absently pick at the edge of the postcard stack. Something patient and steady in the woman's behavior made the edges of her suspicion dull for a moment. "Do you know Mark?" Lily asked, the question the shape of all the quiet she had been living in. Claire's gaze shifted, a small, guilty laugh. "I do," she said. He's been helping me." Lily felt anger rise, the color of warm blood. Helping how? "For the past year, he's been volunteering through a program that helps displaced families secure apartments. He connected me with a lawyer, helped me get on wait lists. He put my name forward." Claire's lip trembled. "He didn't tell me to tell anyone." Lily listened like a clinician hearing a patient unlikely to say everything. It fit the data, and yet gaps yawned.